Here we are again talking about coaching. And as always, I'm here with Sivash and with Yannick. And today's question is about advice on Zoom and your Zoom setups for coaching. So I'm very excited to hear some of the recommendations from these two pros.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch, right? Everything moved to Zoom in the beginning of the pandemic. I hope you're listening to this in a couple of years' time and we all still exist. Um, but I've seen about half my clients on Zoom before. Now I see all my clients on Zoom, and I did make a couple of changes. So maybe we can just kind of quick fire a couple of really practical tips and advice at people how we do things. Again, everybody needs to find their own way, what they're comfortable with. But I think there's standard things like get a camera. I'm having this. I'm using this. What's it called? Q2N, Zoom Q2N. Nothing to do with a platform, but Zoom makes voice recorders for musicians. So I wanted something with a good camera and a decent microphone in there. So I'm using this as an external camera. It's quite small. It's about 100 pounds. No need for the super HD version. But what I like about it is it has different lighting settings, because often the cameras in laptops are quite dark and they don't pick up the light so much. So this one is made for musicians in like dark clubs. So it has like this jazz club setting that just like makes everything a bit brighter. And I think I look a bit more tanned than usual. I can actually, maybe I can move around. Here. So look, if you're listening to this, you have to watch it on YouTube. But I'm just going through the different lighting settings, and you can see that some are very different, and they just brighten things up. So that's one thing. You don't have to, laptop camera works. Just a mic works. If you have a decent mic, I recently bought these noise canceling headphones, which were really helpful just because I had cars running around my window or kids screaming that are going to the park. And these Bose noise canceling headphones, I invested, and it was a bit crazy, but I really like them now because they just take all the noise away that usually people found quite distracting.
That's awesome.
And I've had fireworks going off outside my window, and the client didn't notice. And I'm like, wow, these are really good. This is super cool. So thank you, Ilona.
So it works on your side, but it works also on the client side?
Yes, exactly. So what comes in through the microphone is also getting picked up and noise canceled. So it works on the client side as well.
I probably need one of those because I have two little babies screaming outside of the door sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. And I think that's what it is. That's exactly what Yannick said. It's like you can get really, I got this little cheap, well, I think it's cheap. It's like 50 pound, 100 pound Logitech HD camera, right? And you can get the really expensive ones. And I think with the basic things that we need is at least headphones like this, right? And we need probably like basic lighting. And that's what it is. If you're using it at a high level, I've bought professional lighting, haven't set it up yet. Probably gonna set it up in the new room, right? And I think that's what it is. Like we can get a super simple one. I think with a lot of some laptops, they're okay, like the new laptops, the MacBook and stuff. But most laptops, the camera is quite bad. So I would recommend especially coaches that are doing this full time, or even part time, but really want to do this properly. Invest in 100 pounds into a camera because when people can see you properly, it just creates more connection.
It just comes more. It just comes across more professional. That said, nobody's ever complained about my video image or quality or sound quality. Like occasionally I was in group sessions and it was like, oh, there's a lot of background noise. So where's that coming from? And I just started muting myself when there's a bit like car running or it was always fine. Nobody's ever really complained. So coaches who are just starting out, you don't need to invest 200 pounds in headphones and 100 pounds in a camera. You can just coach. It's fine. But if you invest a little bit, and often you don't need to invest a lot, it just gets you to a level of professionality that, that I think can be reflected in your fees, and it just gives a nice impression, but it's not really that necessary.
Yeah, I think the main thing is also with light, not having the the window what do you call it? Not having the window behind you.
In the back. Yeah,
right?
because that darkens your face a lot.
Yeah, and I think, you can probably, even with most setups, you can go without investing, as long as you have a basic headphones, basic camera.
Yeah, use natural light.
Basic lighting. Yeah.
And when it gets dark outside, maybe just put a little light in front of you. I used to just use a normal lamp, one I had lying around. At some point, I invested in a ring light, which kind of just has this little thing, and I can but that cost me like 50 quid on a Black Friday deal, and it's huge, and I can light up the whole podcast scenario. But you can get something for 10, 20 quid, or you can just use a lamp that you've got lying around, just point it at your face. It just gives you that little bit extra, that helps.
I think coming from a background of photography, I have to admit, I'm quite pernicotine obsessed with the visual aspect of the recording, to the point that it can become a huge procrastination. But some advice for me, I guess, would be, lighting is so important, being in a well-lit room. And again, you guys were just speaking about windows behind you. Yeah, that creates kind of what's called backlighting. And so, your camera will measure you against the backlight. So what you need is like a nifty little, and I've got these on Amazon literally for 30 quid, 2 of them. They're it's a continuous light, and it's so brilliant. It's highly portable, and it's USB powered. I can carry it around anywhere. So it's been great because I move around a lot on my travels and stuff. I think it'd be great, actually. I'd love to have some of the links from your guys' camera. So maybe we can share some links from people, and I'm happy to include the one from this.
What camera are you using right now, Nikki?
So I've just got a MacBook Pro, and I'm using that camera, but it's it's a more recent one. And I used to have an old MacBook Pro until recently, and the camera on that wasn't great. So I'd also looked into getting an external camera like you guys, which also has the ability of creating, what we call in photography bokeh, but separating the person from the background, which I think just visually is quite nice. But again, I suppose the reason I care so much about it is because I think the mood and the visual affects me so much if I'm in a coaching sessions. Like if it's really dark, or the backdrop is distracting, or even the colors or something, I can be really affected by that. So I try and kind of manage that in how I kind of present myself on screen for myself. So again, I just find good lighting, neutral backdrops, bright kind of, I find that quite pleasant. I find that the energy from that kind of fits the mood of coaching for me quite well. Sound wise, headphones I think are great. Both for, I think, one of the things sharing space during COVID has been sharing the environment with other people. And I think everyone's sanity is protected by the use of headphones and that kind of thing. But sound quality. I think that's kind of the main things I can think of.
By the way, for these podcasts, I'm using this, mic setup, and I have a bit of an audio engineering background. So I just had a really good microphone lying around, but I don't use it for coaching, because there's I need to be a bit careful with my arms and stuff. So I've only had these headphones for a couple of months now. Before I was just using a headset, and the cheapest one that came with my Samsung phone, so that was never an issue either.
Same here. I don't really use this for coaching, and, I think it's just keeping it really simple for coaching. But I am interested, actually, maybe we can have a separate conversation about it. But I think, especially for people, I see people that run large groups, they do really invest into the high level stuff. So maybe, can you talk about that? If someone is watching and they're like, hey, you know what, I do want a high level camera, for example, one of the Sonys, I don't know even what you call it,
I mean, the only logistical thing that I would question about that is if you want to stream live, you obviously have to find a way of connecting your camera to the laptop to generate the live screening. But of course, the image, I'm sure that's not that complicated. I'm sure there'll be something called a tethering cable, which kind of makes the image that's recorded in the camera come as the image on your laptop screen if you're having live Zoom sessions. But what you just want to get is a camera with a decent sensor and good ISO capability, which means that it can make the image kind of clear and bright enough, because it picks up the ambient light well. And then you'd probably just want a lens that kind of, can create maybe, again, a bit of that separation of the person from the backdrop, which is quite visually pleasing for most people. The Sony Alpha kind of cameras are very well known for that, but they do have a bit more of a price tag. But if you can get an older model secondhand or something, otherwise Canon cameras are definitely amazing cameras to look into. And I'm sure, if you invested something like £500 for a decent camera and lens, you'd probably get a really, really nice setup So if you're wanting to invest, but because you asked me about the mic, what camera I'm using, Sivash, the main key advice I would give again for anyone who wants to create better visuals is just lighting. The difference of the clarity of the image and how someone looks all comes from the light.
That's why I thought you were using I think when we did the first podcast episode, we had that.
Yeah.
I think the Sony camera, right? And I thought you were using that right now. So maybe if you can put the link to those little thingies.
Sure. I will look. I mean,
in the description, I think, because I see a lot of coaches, they come into sessions, and I used to be like that. Like, it's too dark, and you can hardly see your eyes. And I think that just takes away some of the, the presence and the connection there.
Yeah. Two small things that really made a huge difference for me is hiding my self view, like hiding myself from like not looking at myself while I'm looking at my client. It's very, very difficult not to get distracted by your own image, regardless of your level of narcissism. It's like you just can't help but check. It's like, oh, but I have these, in Germany, we call them Geheimratsecken, which is the secret society corners.
I've not heard them before. I love it.
And like, oh, maybe, or like sometimes the hair went like this, and I'm like, oh no. And like, it's just very distracting from being present with your client. So as soon as I found out about the hide self view function on Zoom, when you click the 3 buttons on your image, you can hide your self view. Don't do it now because it's going to disappear from the recording. So I once presented at a conference and I just had discovered the hide self view, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Cool. So I hit self view and I'm not on the recording. It's just PowerPoint slides without anybody.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Usually I just put on speaker view in coaching so I can see the client really big and myself in a little corner there.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good point. My first year of coaching, it was like this. And I'm just looking at myself all the time like, did I just like do this? Or what am I doing?
Exactly. Do I look like I'm being really present? And one of my colleagues, he calls it the California stare. It's like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Did you also, on the note of Zoom functions, that was revolutionary when someone told me there's a filter you can use that kind of takes out some of the creases in your forehead and like the blemishes. So there is like a
skin. Oh yeah, I think that's an important one.
It's a really important one.
Touched up appearance in the Zoom function.
Takes off the need for makeup.
Although photography friend of mine said like, oh, why are you using that filter? It looks so unnatural. And I'm like,
Yeah, and I think one more important thing is I think what you mentioned, Yannick, there in the beginning, to make sure that when you stand up, people cannot see that you're not wearing pants, right? So that the camera is lined up at the right angle. Sometimes people, sometimes we get up to grab something.
One of my supervisors was actually saying that at some point, like she wanted to get a book for the client, and she's like. Because the camera wasn't set up. So
I was just going to say that must be a guy thing, but no, clearly
that's not just a guy thing.
Funny.
Yeah. And the other thing is, given that speaker view, there's these 3 images at the top. So I want to recreate eye contact as much as possible. So every now and then, like I actually make eye contact with the camera. So while I'm usually looking at the image, the image I make as small as possible, so I can still see enough of the face, and I can get the kind of detail in the movement, but I'm trying to make it small enough so that it's at the very top end of the screen, as close to my camera as possible, as close to the external, as close to the laptop camera. I'm still waiting for the laptop, the kind of Zoom Coach laptop, where the camera is integrated behind the actual screen, so that you can move the Zoom image directly over the camera. You can look somebody in the eye and it actually looks like you're looking them in the eye.
That's cool.
I don't think it exists yet. I've experimented with getting some camera modules, which is just a front bit of the camera with a USB cable. So no packet like that. There's not a big thing. And just hang it in front of somebody's eye, so to speak. And I haven't found the right module. They usually were quite fisheye, very wide angle, which didn't work for me, or very bad quality. So I've tried a few. If anybody out there knows a camera module with a USB cable that is small enough to dangle in front of your actual laptop screen and have a good enough quality, I would be very interested to hear that. But like I want to, ideally, I would have a big picture and the camera would be in front of somebody's eye or maybe in the middle or just next to it. So it actually
Like
looks like
the third eye.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm
that's
just moving it close enough to the camera.
One more thing.
I think that's important. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to move off topic. Is there one more thing actually I've been looking into and also thinking about because I want to do some recording now for my coaching. But and I've seen this done on Zoom and I think it's really smart. You know, again, I've been moving locations so much recently and, you know, I can never really control the backdrop. And I feel like the lack of continuity, although, you know, that can be a nice talking point, sometimes it's just really naff. So I've been thinking about getting a green screen, which you can, again, get really cheaply on somewhere like Amazon. And you just then, you know, it's easy to pack down and travel with. It's lightweight, it's cheap, it's affordable. And you just put it up right behind you. And it means that you can kind of select any other background image as your background. And because of the green screen, it separates it. Because I don't know if you've seen it before sometimes.
There's this horrible fluffering. Halo. Like it just looks very unnatural. And it just keeps flickering the hair. And if with a green screen, you don't have that, right?
Exactly. So again, you know, if you're someone who travels a lot and want a continuity or just a nice backdrop and something brighter, and I don't know, if you're affected by all of that, then I highly recommend getting a cheap green screen off somewhere like Amazon and taking that around with you.
I generally, and Sivash, I'm aware of time, you need to go in a few minutes, but I do want to make this point because I think it's important. Like maybe other people don't care so much, but I find it really irritating when somebody's using a digital background and you have that kind of flickering. And because I'd much rather see their authentic environment, you know, because I'm always thinking, what are you hiding? You know, what is it that you don't want me to see? And I think that makes it a bit difficult to build a relationship with a coach when you're thinking that they're hiding where they actually are. So I would discourage people from using digital backgrounds and just find a space where it works. I did have a conversation once with somebody who had a digital background, but it was actually the picture out of their window. It was the view out of their window. Funny. But they just projected it behind them. That was interesting.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have to close it down here. Sivash, I do want to respect your time, and thank you for making time for these sessions. I think we're doing this for the people out there. We're not profiting from this. It's actually a lot of work to get this out there. But I do get quite often feedback from people who say, "I found this really helpful, and this is really really useful. I like the podcast. You know, you're talking about things that matter to us." Guys out there, if you have any other Zoom tips, do let us know, do comment, and let the other people know. We're doing this for the community. So, let's share. The more we share, the more we learn. Thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate your commitment to growing and learning as a coach. We believe in the generative effect that this has on our wider communities, workplaces, and the world in general. Just a few things before you go. Firstly, we're doing this for you. So if you'd like us to talk about anything in particular, do send us a question. Secondly, we're not doing this for profit, so we rely on your help and support to reach as many coaches as we can. So if you can help us by sending this episode to a friend or telling a fellow coach about what we're doing here, maybe you can subscribe or leave us a review or even support us on Patreon. That would be amazing. And lastly, you can find us across all major platforms. Whether you like to watch or you like to listen or you like to download episodes, you can do so too. And that's it from us. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.